Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular monthly meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Richmond. We're delighted to have a full house tonight. We've got some wonderful things that we're going to be doing and recognizing some people who've been very successful in some of their efforts and ventures, and some of our up-and-coming citizens who are going to lead us in some of the important parts of our citizenship. So we welcome you tonight, and let me certainly also mention we're delighted to have with us the Honorable Bruce Fraley, Mayor of the City of Berea, and the Honorable Reagan Taylor, Judge Executive of the Madison County Fiscal Court, and for the council members and fiscal court magistrates who are also present. So welcome to all of you. And we will proceed first with the invocation by Jamie Jordan. Jamie, if you'll come, please. Good to see you tonight.
Let us pray. God, we just pause for a moment to welcome you in. We ask that your peace would settle in upon this chamber, upon these proceedings, Lord. We thank you for the things that we so often take for granted. The blessings that you give us, the successes that we have, and even the failures that we have that we can learn from. So, Lord, I pray that your presence would be here. I pray, Lord, that you would bless especially these leaders that sit before us, Lord, that you would remind them of their duty under you to work truthfully and gracefully so that this beautiful city of Richmond may thrive and bless one another. So, Lord, I pray that you would, for all that are here, all that will speak, Lord, that you would give each and every person the courage to say what needs to be said, Lord, that you would, may the words be true, Lord, and would you give us the grace by which to say those words. And we pray these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for the service you give also to our community. The highlight of the night will certainly be the next item on our agenda. We're delighted to have Cub Scout Pack 401, which includes from kindergarten to 5th grade, that's going to lead us tonight in our pledge. So, Jen, if you'll just orchestrate for us, please. Now, I know their English teachers teach them better, but ain't they sharp?
Please rise at the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Let's give them a hand. Now, is there something else they're going to do for us, or?
That was what we had.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. You'll have to come back and do it again for us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, now, we're going to do something tonight before they leave, and I'm going to ask for the leadership to help us. I give this little story every time I give one of these, but I tell them I enjoy very much being mayor, but sometimes the mayor gets tired and he needs some help. So he appoints junior mayors to help him every day, and I give you a pen that's somewhat like mine that maybe you can add to your pen. So I want to give each of you, if you don't mind giving these, well, and then let me have that back, and we're going to do something else. So we're going to make. But I always tell the recipients, the children, I always tell them this pen is not free. Thank you so much. You will need today to find someone that you can be nice to. That's how you pay for the pen. And I remember two particular responses. One was a kid jumped up and down. He said, "Oh, I'm going to be nice to my mommy." Another, just a couple of weeks ago, the mother said to the child, "Maybe you can go home and be nice to your sister." But guys, welcome aboard. You're now junior mayors of the city of Richmond. Oh, thank you so much for coming. Sharp, guys, you're sharp. I understand you have your meeting tonight also?
Mayor, don't you wish we could all keep that attitude throughout life? The world would be a much better place.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would, Commissioner. Now, also, let's see, Madam Clerk, first of all, please call the roll.
Commissioner Cole?
Here.
Commissioner Goebel?
Here.
Commissioner Newby?
Here.
Commissioner Brewer?
Here.
Mayor Blythe?
Here, thank you. The first of our presentations tonight, and it may not be on the bulletin, thing of a church. For those who have not gotten a copy, there are copies of the agenda. I think there are a few left. If you'd like to have one, those are there in the pocket for you. This may not be on that agenda printed, but we want to present tonight to a very special group, our Special Olympics softball team. That's right, the softball team, the Mustangs, is that right? Who are the 2024 state tournament champions.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now, I want you to stand, and I want your leadership, please, to come. Where are you?
Hey, Jamie.
And let's see here, and in just a moment,
Chuck, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Major Stocker and Chief, if you
We
would
done,
come,
Coach.
I'm going to ask you all to assist me. And
Good to see you.
Oh, that's okay. I saw him come to the door. Let me,
You want me to wait till?
yeah, if you will, please. Yeah, thanks, Chief. Thanks. Okay, now. Okay, come on. Do that, please. Our public information officer.
Good evening. I'm Kelly McBride, the Public Information Officer for the City of Richmond, and it is my distinct honor to recognize some celebrities in our midst. Madison County Special Olympics is our chapter of Special Olympics Kentucky. Over 100 active athletes participate in 10 sports year-round with weekly practices, league games for teams, and regional and state competitions for all divisions. In softball, Madison County has teams in 2 divisions. 1A team is the Mustangs, and 1B team is the Miracles. This is the first year that both of these teams have become state champions. Additionally, this is the first year that Madison County Special Olympics had a team go undefeated all season and win state for a second year in a row. 1A Mustangs achieved this. Also with us tonight is the 2024 cheerleading team. The team spent the season learning cheers to go support the basketball team at their games, as well as a competition routine that they performed at state. They put in months of hard work, and it paid off when they were awarded first place at the state competition in Louisville. We are so proud of the Madison Mad Cats. And by the way, and for your information, the flag football team has advanced to state competition in Winchester on November 3rd. So follow them on Facebook. They also have a Special Olympics annual chili supper fundraiser and silent auction on November the 8th. And I have been told that is a cook-off between the Richmond Police Department and the Richmond Fire Department. Is that rumor true? Okay. Thank you so much, and we will continue with your recognition. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. And we are going to, and I'm going to ask if the commission please would stand with me. From the city of Richmond, on behalf of the Richmond City Board of Commissioners, this is to congratulate all of our champions who are part of our meeting tonight, the Madison County Special Olympics softball team, the Mustangs, the 1A team, for the 2024 state tournament champions. Now, we're going to give each of these champions a certificate with their names on them. We won't distribute them now in the interest of time, but we're going to ask that your leaders would do that for us. The other thing we wanted to do, and I've asked the chief and the major, the police department, if they would assist us, please, also by distributing that pin that's going to make you deputy mayors for the day. And I tell, this is what I tell them now. I tell the children, I tell them, that means if somebody has a pothole and they call me, I'm telling them to call you.
Sorry.
Who should I give these to? All right, I'll give them to Cindy. Thank you so much. Yeah. Let's give them a hand again, please. For those who are not aware, one of the highlights of our year in the city of Richmond is hosting, I think the 25th year we've done, right? 25 years? Hosting the annual Special Olympics tournaments here, mostly on the campus. And you may have noticed I called the city manager to the desk there just a moment ago, and I said, you know, it would really be nice, Commissioner Goebel, right, if we could host part of these games in our upcoming sports complex, and that's what we're going to try to do. That's what we're going to try to do. So thank you all.
Just get outside, or I'll give you the right after the podium.
We have no idea what that means. I'm just grateful that we can do that. State champions. We've got teams all over the place. The Central teams that just recently won state championships. It was a three-peat. It was a three-peat. Yeah.
That's so cool.
I'm going to ask, while they're exiting, if Kerry Hensley, our Economic Development Coordinator, will come and prepare to present our new business for the evening.
Good evening. I'm Carrie Lee Hensley, your Small Business and Economic Development Coordinator, and I'm excited to introduce our newest business at the Carriage Gate Shopping Center. It's Five Below, and we have store manager Joe Nance. He's going to come up here and tell us about the store and a little bit about the company. So Joe, come on up.
Thank you all for having me tonight. This is actually the second time I've been in Richmond. I went to college back in '84. Graduated, moved away, and started with Five Below 3 years ago. Five Below started in 2002 in Pennsylvania. We have 1,700 stores in 48 states. We opened up 300 stores this past year. We're planning to open up 200 more this year. The CEO of the company is still the same one that opened it in 2002. While a lot of stores are closing, we're still expanding. The Beyond section in the back of the store was a little more than $5. It started in 2012. They started the business trying to copy the Five a Dime store to make it more reasonable for everybody else. I want to thank you all again for having me.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Get in our positions.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Let's see now, is there a Five Below anywhere near Martinsburg, West Virginia? I think I went into the store there. I was visiting my nephew in the area for Christmas a couple of years ago, and yes, we'll see you. Welcome. All righty, let's roll here. We have in our packets the minutes from the special call meeting of September 19, 6P, the regular meeting of October 8, 6P.
Hey, Mayor,
Yes.
do we still have the pinning of the police officer?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's right here. I checked it off.
I saved you.
I would tell you what kind of day it's been. It's not been a bad one. It's been a little busy. My mama told me years ago, she said, because I've always been involved in things in the community, she said, one of these days you're going to meet yourself coming and going. I think it was today. Okay. Excuse me. Chief, please come. We were scheduled to do this in our last meeting, and some other details need to be worked out. So, Chief,
Yeah,
would
thank
please.
you, Mayor. The details that need to be worked out is I just need to notify the people that are getting promoted. But I got that solved this time. We made that right. But it is our Master Police Officer Program. We started it, it's been several years, I guess, now. Time flies on us. But it is an advancement right before sergeant in a leadership position that prepares them, we hope prepares them for future leadership. So when the officer is hired, they start out as police officer, and then after 3 years, they move to senior police officer. And then after 5, they are eligible to apply for master police officer. Now, that's not an automatic thing. There's a checklist and a scoring system. So if you show up for work every day and then you go home and you don't really cause any trouble and nobody really hears from you, you may not make it at 5 years. So you have to be involved. You have to be involved with the community. You have to participate in special units. You have to get some awards. There's things that you have to do in order to qualify for Master Police Officer. So it's a great program, and we're very proud of it. The officers that we're going to pin tonight are part of our team. We couldn't do it without them. And I'd like to call them forward with who they're going to have pinned on their new rank. Officer Colette Mullins and her husband, Jason. As she comes forward, Officer Mullins started in May of 2019. She is currently our school resource officer for the middle schools, and she also is our coordinator for our kids camp in the summer. So when the teachers go home and they get a break, Officer Mullins does not get a break. But she does a great job, and we're very proud of her. Detective Tim Kraft, his wife Linda, their son Jared, and their grandson Carson. Detective Kraft has been with us for several years. He retired and got to missing us a whole lot and came back. And he's moving back up in the ranks. He started with us again in 2020. He retired in 2016. He came back to work for us in 2020. And he is a detective in our Special Victims Unit, so he works with domestic violence victims most. But he also assists our criminal investigations divisions with various criminal cases. So thank you, Detective Kraft. And our next person is, oh yeah, Kirsten's here. Good, okay. She got off work at 6 o'clock, so we were really timing it great. So I was like, don't rush. Matt Hannon and his wife, Kirsten, if y'all would come forward. Officer Hannon's part of our first shift crew. So he shows up for work at 6 a.m., takes care of anything that happens between 6 a.m. and 2 p.m. He's also a training officer. He does a great job for the department. We're proud to have him. We're proud to have all of them. So with that being said, would the individuals that you've chosen to pin on your new rank, please do so at this time. This will signify that you have met the requirements to be master police officers with the Richmond Police Department.
You're fast.
You know, I know I've heard the mayor say this before, and I truly believe it, but without family members that support our officers, it just wouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
And that's why they've all chosen family members to pin on their new rank. So that is that's not only important to them, but it's important to our agency as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, may I present our new master police officers.
Kelly, you need to work on that.
I'm tired.
Oh, it's still going?
So much.
It's the lighting. We'll blame it on the lighting. Mayor, commissioners, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks, Paul. I think we got one more. Rob Hess, I've got one more penny, because I'm going to make you junior mayor tonight. The good sergeant. Ah, goodness. Now, we have the minutes, I believe, in our packets. If you've had a chance to look at those, these three meetings, may we have a motion, please, to accept these minutes as presented?
I move.
Commissioner Newby?
Second.
And Commissioner Cole. Is there any discussion of those three meetings? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Goble? Yes. Commissioner Newby?
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Mayor Blythe?
Yes, thank you. Ordinance 24-24, an ordinance of the City of Richmond amending ordinance 24-02, regulating short-term rentals. This is a first reading. Mr. Attorney, please.
Whereas the city adopted ordinance 24-02 on February 15th, 2024, and whereas the Planning and Zoning Board has recommended amendments to the existing short-term rental ordinance, and now therefore be it ordained by the Board of Commissioners for the City of Richmond that Section 1, short-term rentals, and in summary, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
you will see that they have amended the definitions as to what a dwelling unit is to not include RVs, tents, garages, boats, and other spaces not considered dwelling units. They have addressed zoning, which is also pulled out for another ordinance reading further down our agenda. And they have put in place inspection requirements for fire inspections before a business license is issued. They have addressed parking requirements, requiring parking for at least one vehicle per bedroom. There has been included a yearly fee and a initial registration fee. Registration being $500 and a yearly reoccurring fee of $150 for renewal. Has included that all residential deed restrictions for neighborhoods shall be honored. And it is also allowed or codified liens and fines to be placed on the property if someone does not abide by the regulations. This ordinance shall be effective immediately upon enactment by the Board of Commissioners following second reading and publication in accordance with the requirements of applicable Kentucky law.
Thank you, sir. Heard the reading of ordinance 24-24. May we have a motion, please, as this is the first reading, bring to the floor for discussion.
So moved.
Commissioner Cole,
Second.
Commissioner Newby. Is there any discussion? Anything, Mr. City Manager or Mr. Attorney, that you want to?
I just want to
Clarify.
remind the board that these recommendations came directly from the Planning and Zoning Board.
All right. Commissioner Newby, was there something you wanted? Mr. Cole?
I just wanted clarification in terms of the change, or is there a change in the cost?
There is. In the prior ordinance, there was no fee for registration or renewal. Here, they have recommended a $500 initial registration and a $150 yearly renewal fee.
So what was it currently, the 150?
No, ma'am, there was no.
Oh,
There was
okay.
no fee.
Okay. So this would add 500, is it per year?
150 per year.
Okay.
The initial registration. So that would be any current licensee would be
Okay.
150 each year moving forward. A new short-term rental getting a permit would be $500 the first year and $150 moving forward each year.
Okay, thank you.
Per business? I mean, if you had more than one
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. that is
unit,
correct.
it would be, okay. It seems steep to go from nothing to that.
Initially, we had it at $50, if you'll recall, and then we went to no charge at all, but then it causes us problems in creating the actual permit, but we went ahead and were able to do it, and now these new guidelines have been recommended by the Planning and Zoning Board, so.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, second reading will be a part of our next meeting. Ordinance 24-26, an ordinance of the City of Richmond, Kentucky, amending the city's development ordinance relating to planned urban development. This is also a first reading. Mr. Attorney, please.
Whereas the Planning and Zoning Board has recommended to the City Commission that houses of worship be permitted in PUD zoning, PUD zoning, and whereas the Board of Commissioners finds it to be in the public interest that houses of worship be permissible in PUD zoning, now therefore be it ordained that the city's development ordinance be and hereby is modified in the particulars set forth below. Houses of worship, PUD, permissible. This ordinance shall be effective immediately upon enactment following second reading and publication in accordance with the requirements of applicable Kentucky law.
Thank you, sir. That's ordinance 24-26. May we have a motion, please, as this is first reading, to bring to the floor for discussion?
So moved.
Commissioner Goble?
Second.
Commissioner Newby, is there any discussion? Anything we want to add to that, Mr. City Manager?
I just want a clarification. So in our existing guidelines, then houses of worship would be excluded?
That is correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we have a new PUD development that actually made this request because they think there's a church that wants to locate there. So we
Okay.
want to add it to the public urban development.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? There being none, again, this is the first reading. Second reading will be in our next meeting. Ordinance 24-27, an ordinance of the City of Richmond, Kentucky, amending the city's development ordinance relating to short-term rental zoning. Again, first reading. Mr. Attorney, please.
Whereas the Planning and Zoning Board has recommended that the zoning classification for short-term rentals as permissible in R1A, R1B, R1C, and conditional in B2 zoning. And whereas the Board of Commissioners finds it to be in the public interest, they adopt the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Board. Now therefore be it ordained that the city's development ordinance be and hereby is modified in the particulars set forth below. That is permissible in R1A, R1B, R1C, and conditional in B2. This ordinance shall be effective immediately upon enactment following second reading and publication in accordance with the requirements of applicable Kentucky law.
Thank you, sir. That's ordinance 24-27. Maybe a motion, please, bring to the floor for discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Brewer, Commissioner Newby. Is there any discussion here? There being none, this again is the first reading, second reading in our next meeting. Ordinance 24-28, an ordinance of the City of Richmond amending the annual budget for the City of Richmond for the fiscal year 2025, estimating revenues and resources, and appropriating funds for the operation of city government. This, too, is a first reading. Mr. City Manager and Madam Finance Director, is Sharon here tonight?
No, she's not. I'll read it,
All right.
Mayor. Whereas a budget proposal has been prepared and delivered to the City Commission, and whereas the City Commission has reviewed the budget proposal and necessary modifications have been completed and recommended, now therefore be ordained by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners that Section 1, the annual budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, and ending in June 30th, 2025, is hereby presented as follows. American Rescue Funds, estimated fund balance carried forward, $2,316,295. Total resources for appropriation, $2,316,294. And if you'll go down the list of appropriations from our work session last week, the items that we changed was the Gateway Sign Project. We changed it to $130,000. We adjusted the Little League facility improvements to $92,400. We added the commission-approved nonprofits, $50,000. We added Habitat for Humanity, $50,000. We added Tourism Historical Society Genealogy House, $50,000. And then we adjusted the tourism signage, $120,000, to give us total appropriations of $2,316,294. The amended ARPA 2025 fiscal year budget is hereby approved as submitted. The amounts budgeted above are hereby appropriated to the accounts indicated for 2025 fiscal year budget. The city clerk is hereby directed to publish a copy of the amended ARPA 2025 fiscal year budget ordinance in accordance with KRS 424.240. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon second reading and adoption and publication by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. This is a first reading once again. Motion to bring to the floor for discussion.
So moved.
Commissioner Goble,
Second.
Commissioner Newby. Is there any discussion?
So just for clarification, this will almost zero out our ARPA funds, correct? This will
That's correct.
finish that.
And we're being consulted that we need to have these funds dedicated to projects by December of this year and spent by December of '26.
Okay.
Further discussion? All right, there being none, the second reading will be in our next meeting. Ordinance 24-29, an ordinance of the City of Richmond, Kentucky, amending the city's development ordinance relating to street lighting regulations. This again is a first reading. Mr. Attorney, please.
Whereas the city's Planning and Zoning Board was asked to consider regulations for the placement of streetlights in new developments, and whereas the city's Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended to the hereto attached regulations after careful consideration and recommendation from the City Planning and Zoning Department, and whereas the Board of Commissioners finds it to be in the public interest as the recommendations of the Planning and Zoning Commission in regards be enacted. Now therefore be it ordained that the city's development ordinance be and hereby is modified in the particulars noted in the attached below to this ordinance, and same are incorporated in the ordinance as though set forth in full. And in summary, Mayor, if you
Yes, sir,
see,
please.
the streetlights are to be approximately 250 feet apart, not to be less than 200 and not to exceed 300 feet. This ordinance shall become effective immediately upon enactment following second reading and publication in accordance with the requirements of applicable Kentucky law.
Thank you, sir. This is the first reading of ordinance 24-29. May we have a motion, please, bring to the floor for discussion.
I move.
Commissioner Newby,
Second.
Commissioner Brewer. Is there any discussion? Nothing to be added, Mr. City Manager?
No, sir.
All right. The second reading in our next meeting. Order 24-151, an order of the City of Richmond hiring an employee in the Codes Enforcement Department. Madam Clerk, please.
Whereas the Codes Enforcement Department is in need of an additional animal control enforcement officer, and whereas the position was advertised and interviews conducted by a selection panel, and whereas the selection committee has recommended a qualified candidate for the position, now therefore be it ordered by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners that the following individual is hired contingent upon their successful completion of the city's pre-employment requirements as Codes Enforcement Animal Control Officer for the Codes Enforcement Department, pay grade 4, effective October 23rd, 2024. Bobby Aldridge, he's an at-will employee and will serve a one-year probationary period. This order shall be effective immediately upon adoption by the Richmond City Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, ma'am. That's order 24-151. May we have a motion, please, to bring to the floor for discussion and approval?
So moved.
Commissioner Brewer,
Second.
Commissioner Newby. Is there any discussion?
Is, if you don't mind, Mayor,
Board, please.
is this an employee on a year probation with us?
Yes. We went through 2 rounds of interviews for this position. We had 2 primary candidates. This candidate had all the certifications. The second candidate had a 45-minute commute. And as we ramp up our animal control, this is a needed position. We have 1 animal control officer at this time who is on call 24/7, doing a great job, by the way. But a second one will allow them to alternate weeks on call.
And this is a new position that we're filling, created
Yes.
not too many
It
weeks
was-
ago. And
Yes, that's correct.
any further discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Brewer,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Goble,
Yes.
Commissioner Newby.
Yes.
Mayor Blythe.
Yes, thank you. Order 24-152, an order of the City of Richmond hiring a park security officer for the police department. Madam Clerk, please.
Whereas there is a need for a park security officer for the police department due to a recent promotion, and whereas the position was advertised and interviews conducted, and whereas the city manager has recommended a hiring for this qualified applicant. Now therefore be it ordered by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners that the following individuals hired contingent upon their successful completion of the city's pre-employment requirements and background checks as an at-will park security officer for the police department effective October 29th. Pay grade 1, Tyler Farthing. This order shall be in full force and effect upon reading and adoption by the Richmond City Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's Order 24-152. May we have a motion, please, bring to the floor for discussion and approval?
So moved.
Commissioner Cole,
Second.
Commissioner Goble. Is there any discussion? How many security officers, Chief, will that give us?
We'll have 4 full-time and 1 part-time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Further discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Goble?
Yes.
Commissioner Newby?
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer?
Yes.
Mayor Blythe?
Yes, thank you. Order 24-153, order of the City of Richmond hiring an employee in the Public Works Department. Madam Clerk, please.
Whereas the Public Works Department is in need of additional staff due to the increased workload, and whereas the position was advertised and interviews conducted, and whereas the city manager has recommended the hire for this position, now therefore be it ordered by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners that the following individual is hired contingent upon their successful completion of the city's pre-employment requirements for the Public Works Department effective October 28th. Laborer, pay grade 1, David Isaacs. He's an at-will employee and will serve a 1-year probationary period. This order shall be in full force and effect upon reading and adoption by the Richmond City Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's Order 24-153. May we have a motion, please, bring to the floor for discussion and approval?
I move.
Commissioner Newby,
Second.
Commissioner Brewer. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, I think this gets us fully staffed in the road department. Is that right, Josh? That fills it up. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Goble?
Yes.
Commissioner Newby?
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Mayor Blythe?
Yes, thank you. Order 24-154, an order of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Richmond, Kentucky, electing to enter into an interlocal cooperation agreement for participation in a joint regional economic development. Mr. Attorney, please.
Whereas the city, per Order 2475, has voted to budget funding for participation in a joint regional grant application, and whereas the grant application requires all participating parties to enter an interlocal cooperation agreement creating a regional industrial development authority, and whereas a draft interlocal cooperation agreement is now proposed to the City of Richmond for its consideration. And now, therefore, be it ordered by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners that the City of Richmond formally enters into an interlocal cooperation agreement attached to this order and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth in full. The establishment of the Regional Industrial Development Authority is hereby authorized for the purposes of acquiring and developing land, marketing sites, and assisting and supporting buyers and tenants for business parks in order to stimulate and promote economic development in the parties' jurisdictions. The purpose of this agreement is to allow the authority to act as an independent agency and instrumentality and the constituted authority of the parties in the acquisition, financing, and development of business parks for economic development purposes, and to develop and submit proposals and applications to the Cabinet for available funds, and to seek other funds as may be identified to assist in the acquisition, development, management, and support of business parks. The mayor is hereby authorized to sign the attached interlocal cooperation agreement. This order shall be in full force and effect upon reading and adoption by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. That's Order 24-154. May we have a motion, please, to bring to the floor for discussion and approval?
I move.
Commissioner Newby,
Second.
Commissioner Goble. At this time, if I'm in order, Mr. City Manager, I'm going to ask those representatives who've come tonight to be available to answer firsthand some questions.
You've got Lucas Witt and also R.J. Palmer, and then I think a legal representation from the McBriar Law Offices to answer any questions you all have. They're what I would call the authors of the document.
What's that?
The authors of the
Authors.
document.
Oh, yes.
you guys don't want me going through the legal piece of it, so I'll leave that to Neil. I think, see if I can fast forward to my presentation. Oh, somebody back there working on that, maybe? Are you able to pull up the other presentation that, Rob, no, maybe? No?
That's it.
Okay, it's all good. I can speak to it. Well, thank you for having us. And so I think the purpose of tonight is obviously for the city to make a decision on the project, but I thought it'd be helpful, or we thought it would be helpful to come and remind everyone of the program itself and the project and the people who are involved, right? So as a reminder, my name's Lucas Witt. Our company, MWM Consulting, we are technically under contract with Madison County and the city of Berea to assist on economic development, which is specifically our involvement in this, but we've had the opportunity to work with all the partners who have been involved in this project.
Lucas, excuse me, let me say this in the way of clarifying. I probably, out of the five of us, am the only one who's been so closely involved as for example, the interlocal agreement was evolving. Some of the meetings I was able to make, some of the Zoom meetings and phone calls and so on. So the other four members of the Board of Commissioners need more so. Now, I need to hear from you tonight also, but they need more so to hear some of the things that maybe they've not been in touch with immediately as I have. So that's
Sure.
one of the reasons we asked you to be here tonight.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. In addition to that, Neil Morris with McBrayer Law Firm will be walking you through this presentation specifically as it relates to the legal components of the interlocal agreement. And then RJ Palmer with Compass Municipal Advisors will be walking you through the financial components of the projections, right? And hopefully that shows there's been extreme intention behind the project itself and the thought that's gone behind it, and the different team members have been assembled to try to put a great project together. So I'll take a step back and just remind everybody why we're here, why we are where we are today. And specifically, it's because the Cabinet for Economic Development in Frankfort put together a program called the Kentucky Product Development Initiative a couple of years ago, specifically in 2022. They allocated $100 million to encourage communities across the state of Kentucky to apply for funding, to acquire sites, put new infrastructure in, et cetera, to make the state more competitive. The reason behind that was the state, and this is a good thing, has had a decent amount of success. And the product, meaning sites and buildings, a lot of that has been absorbed. I believe the city of Richmond has been recipients of the programs in the past. And so within that first year, they had funding limits for each community. When I say community, I mean the county and the cities below it. So the 120 counties across the state of Kentucky were limited with the amount of funding that they could apply for. And that limitation was driven off a population formula, right? The more people you had, you could get up to $2 million. If you had less people, you could receive less. And the program is a one-to-one match, meaning if you put in $2 million, the state will match that at $2 million. So you're able to do a $4 million project for 50% off, for example. That first year, they received 87 applications. And of those 87 applications, roughly 50 or so of them were funded, but only $34 million of the $100 million was spent. So entering into that second year, and strategically, they restructured the program some, meaning each county, no matter the population, you could receive up to $2 million in funding, which would then is required to be matched, like I said before. And that was obviously to encourage the money to get out the door, right? And also, this is when regional projects became more of a focal point. And the reason behind that is not every community across the state of Kentucky has a $4 million project, right, to spend on economic development. We have 120 counties. Say what you want, that's a lot, right? So to encourage the money to get put back into product development, you can go on the Cabinet for Economic Development's website today and go under KPDI, and you will see where it says applicants are encouraged to submit regional projects to maximize the funding opportunity with a multi-county approach, right? So the state of Kentucky has been asking for that, encouraging it, which I think was a big focal point for the partners who are in this particular project. And as a reminder, As of right now, that's Madison County, the city of Richmond, the city of Berea, Scott County, Georgetown, and then Fayette County, and Lexington. So with that being said, a slide that I had today outlined just a rough timeline of where this project started and to where we are today. The group really started working together in March of 2023. In April of 2023, the parties that I just mentioned signed a joint letter of intent and sent it to the Cabinet for Economic Development, signaling their intention to apply together, and that's what they did. And so we worked and put the KPDI application into the state, requesting funds to acquire and develop a site in Georgetown, Kentucky, which by applying for KPDI funding, the matching dollars and extra money to be put in would bring $12 million to the table. And then from there, we were shortlisted to the site visits across the state. Again, within that second year, $66 million was left. They probably received another 80 to 90 applications. Roughly 50 to 60 ended up being funded. The state of Kentucky outsources the decision-making on this. They've hired a third-party consultant out of Dallas, Texas, Site Selection Group, who works projects all over the country. And the reason behind that is, as they're reviewing these applications, they're reviewing it as if they had a company that they were representing, and they're making recommendations to the state of who to fund. And with the theory behind, if you fund this project and this applicant does what they said they were going to do with the money, they would be a more competitive site to recruit a project there, right? So it's totally unbiased, independent. We went through that process and shortlisted to the site visit stage, and then we ended up fast forwarding to December of last year, 2023, funds were recommended to the project, right? So since then, the group has been working diligently with all the partners and whatnot to develop the structure of the partnership, because that's what it will be. You put money in, the amount of money that you put in is automatically doubled because of the PDI program. So for example, if Richmond were to put in $500,000, let's call it your equity ownership is now $1 million. You've immediately doubled your investment in that scenario, right? And then the project then goes and recruits companies there, and theoretically lands companies, creates jobs, and the tax revenue generated from that project would then equally be distributed to the partners based on the ownership percentage, right? So where we are now is it's time for each entity to review the interlocal agreements, vote to participate. We would then follow up to the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development Board with our application to receive formal approval, which has to be done by December. And then after that, if funding is approved in January of next year, the project would theoretically kick off, the site would be acquired, and the group would work together to do what you would expect, right? To recruit companies to the area and create jobs and prosper. I'll take a step back to point, obviously the regional component is a major topic of conversation. Why do regional? Why not do regional? I'm here to say that it is certainly not a requirement in this program to submit regional applications, right? There are plenty applications out there that are not regional. It has certainly become more of a frequent submission, though. Over the last several years, roughly 15 or so regional applications have been recommended for funding through this program. And economic development in general is going more regional. Companies, they don't see city and county lines. When you're in this industrial, advanced manufacturing, business-related component, people are driving more and more, right? Whether it's Madison County, Fayette County, Scott County, everyone has different people that live in their counties that are driving to jobs, right? And I think, one statement I would make is if you go back to 1980, what if this regional group was formed when Toyota landed in Georgetown, right? And that would obviously be a different story to where we are today. So that's the thought behind it, right? And I think, again, you're seeing regional projects in Ohio and South Carolina and others become more of a frequent thing, right? I think it's just more, it's a way to partner up. And within these three counties, you have roughly over 500,000 people. You're taking up a significant amount of Central Kentucky's population. There's a lot of reasons as to why the regional components is making more sense in Kentucky and economic development, right? So with that being said, we have a couple of others that certainly want to present. Neil is going to present the legal component of the interlocal, and RJ, like I said, will present some more on the financials. I would be happy, though, to answer any questions if you have them, or if you wanted to save to the end, we can answer them then. I'll leave that up to the commission, Mayor, and follow your all's lead.
Anybody have a question at this time?
I think we save them till the end.
Okay. So next, Neil Morris with McBrayer Law Firm will come up and walk through the legal components of the interlocal agreement.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Mayor. I have the much more dry topic of the night of talking you all through a rather dense contract. So I'm going to focus more on the highlights and about the guardrails around this. And starting off, as Lucas said, this is a regional project with multiple partners. It's not just Madison County, Berea, and Richmond. Scott County and Georgetown will be involved, and the Urban County government next door will also be involved. And you all will all be equal partners of this interlocal agreement. And it's actually fairly familiar to you all. It's governed by the same set of statutes that your all's local industrial development authority is governed by. It'll have the same powers as the local authority. It'll be controlled the same manner. It'll have a board of appointed members that'll be in charge of it. So it's very, very similar to what you already have in effect here locally. Now, another component of this is also familiar with the Special Purpose Governmental Entity Act, which is your water districts. It allows special purpose taxation if necessary. So this regional authority will also have to comply with that. So it has another set of statutory guardrails imposed upon it. And as part of being an SPGE, it is subject to approval by the Department for Local Government. So there's actually a approval process in Frankfurt. We can't just put anything in the act or the agreement and let it fly. It has to get approved by Frankfurt. So we worked very hard on making sure that this is compliant and that Frankfurt will approve this act or agreement. And the functions of a regional business park: acquire land, develop land, maintain it, and promote it to attract companies from wherever in the country to come to Kentucky and grow our workforce and grow the revenue that you all receive from taxation. So again, very similar to the local IDA you all have here. And it has the ability to receive appropriations from the parties. We've contemplated that within the agreement itself. We'll go over that in more detail. It does have ability to borrow money, issue notes, incur debt. RJ will go over that as well. It can defray the cost through revenue bonds, and all revenue collected by the authority are exempt from taxation. So it does have mechanisms for it to finance it, but the hope here is that state funding will take care of a lot of it, and we are also hoping to apply for federal funds as well. So the hope is the authority doesn't need to incur debt, and down the road, if that becomes necessary, we do have a mechanism within the agreement to address that. Now, the authority itself, the membership is selected by the parties. Each county and the cities will each have 2. So it'll be 6 members. Scott County gets to appoint 2 members with Georgetown. Richmond, Madison County, and Berea get to appoint 2 members. And then Lexington will get to appoint 2 members on a staggered rotation. So similar to the IDA, exact same process. Now, the authority within this agreement, we've given it some provisions so it can employ the outside counsel, agents, and employees that it believes are necessary to carry out its workforce functions. So it won't just be the board doing everything. Now, while this is being worked on, it may hire engineers. We're already doing due diligence, but moving forward, as more needs are realized, they can hire without having to immediately go to all the fiscal courts, commissioners, and council members to say, do we have approval to hire somebody to do something necessary to our job? So they do have that authority within this agreement to hire anybody they deem necessary. They will also organize in the same manner. They will have officers, chairman, vice chairman, treasurer, who have their own roles in managing the authority. And then every year, they will have to submit reports to all the local governments of what they're doing and they will also have to submit an annual budget to each local government. So we built that into this agreement that they have to let you all know exactly what they're doing, what they're spending, and what they anticipate on spending, so nobody's going to be left in the dark on what they're doing. And it'll be organized as an incorporation, a nonprofit, so it'll have registration with the Secretary of State. Its articles will be on file. It can be reviewed by the public generally. The bylaws will set out how the authority members will operate the authority internally. There will be a membership agreement between the parties, and then the dense part, the interlocal cooperation agreement, which lays out the fine details of how this all gets accomplished. So we talked about the fiscal year budgets where prior to your all's own budgeting, they will submit a budget of what they expect to expend, debt service, if there's any costs they have to deal with, along with any ongoing responsibilities. And then there will be a calculation of taxes and fees estimated. Now, this is down the road. The first few years will be development of the park itself, and revenue won't really be incurred at that time. But taxes and fees received by the business park are pledged to the authority for paying debt and service and related fees on debts incurred for the business benefit of the park. And one of the hot topics that I know has been a discussion at many of these meetings is what happens if the authority suddenly does not have enough money? Well, it can't just take money from you all. You all can't necessarily give it money right away. It has to request money and say how much money it needs, why it needs that money, and then the local government say, yes, we'll pitch in, or no, we won't pitch in, and then that's not the final say. At that point, the authority will say, all right, based on the money that you all have pledged to meet this budget shortfall, we will propose a shift in the revenue split similar to equity in a company. So if they say we need $500,000 more and Richmond says, great, we'll meet that, Richmond's equity in the project would go up in that situation. And then it would take it back to all the local governments, and the local governments would all have to agree to that change. So it has to be unanimous as well. So it's not just half the party saying, we'll pitch in and we'll get more money in the end. That won't work. Everyone has to agree. And if somebody disagrees with that, then all of the local governments have to meet and they have to figure out a solution to move forward on dealing with the budget shortfall. So there's no unilateral ability of the authority to change the revenue split. There's no unilateral authority or majority rule by the local governments. It all has to be unanimous when it comes to dealing with the budget shortfall. And here's the part that we hope to see once the park is developed and starts selling sites and generating tax revenue is excess funds. So currently there is a revenue split where the host county gets a 10% off the top to go to its provision of services. After that, it is split evenly between the counties and then on to the cities for revenue generated by the park, and that's primarily taxes. And that can only be paid, though, after the authority is current on its legal obligations. It can't be in the red and paying out excess taxes. It has to be solvent, and that it is also able to reserve funds even when it's solvent in case it has a essentially a rainy day fund. Up to 25% of excess funds that it would distribute, it can reserve in for what ifs. So right now, I believe that's the next slide. This is the proposed revenue split for when the authority is solvent and is generating revenue, tax revenue. The host community would get 10% off the top, and then the remainder would go down there. And you can see that the city of Richmond would get 8.33% of that. And that would be its return for its initial investment. And Lucas was talking about this, the pursuit of parks available grant funds, and we can talk about that more, but the idea and hope with this park is to fund it primarily with state dollars and potentially federal dollars, and have your all's initial investment be the mechanism to get the state dollars with that match. And then with the indebtedness, the authority can incur its own indebtedness. You all are not bound by it, though. We have in this agreement a disclaimer that must be put in any financial document when the authority incurs debt that says none of the local governments are agreeing or guaranteeing to this debt. So it can unilaterally incur debt, but it does not bind or reflect upon your all's own debt. And then there's some miscellaneous provisions in here, maintaining capital accounts, separating revenues in the future, if there are future business parks, which is the hope that Madison County, City of Richmond get a future business park, potentially Lexington, but the hope is that there are future business parks and there will be separate capital accounts for those to make sure that the funds aren't mixed up and to keep them appropriately segregated so that the revenue can be split accordingly. The tax revenue will be required to attract companies, so we can be flexible on how tax revenue is dealt with. We're going to follow Kentucky's competitive bidding process. Maintenance operation is dealt with by essentially HOA once the project's done. It is an authority-formed HOA of the companies who fill the park, but that is much further in the future, and that's sort of the termination of the authority as it may be, because then the park's full, and it's the responsibility of the tenants and the owners of the real estate to maintain the property at that point, but that is significantly down the road. And once we do have the interlocal signed, though, we do have quick deadlines. We do have to form the authority itself. We do have to submit that to Secretary of State within 14 days. We do have to submit an SPGE application to the Department for Local Government, and it is all timed up with the application for the funds. So once this is passed, everybody's going to move very quickly to make sure it is formed properly and make sure that the grant applications are all taken care of. So it's a quick process and short deadlines, but we can talk about that once this is formed because it is a short deadline. Because within 15 days, we do have to submit a lot of information, particularly about the members of the authority, about who will be running the actual authority. And I know I sort of breezed through that. You all have a fair bit on the agenda left, and RJ has to talk about the finances. And I'll just hold off questions until RJ's had his moment to speak.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the commission. RJ Palmer with Compass Municipal Advisors. And I think I'll just give you kind of the 30,000 view, 30,000 foot view of how we put this together, because it's a bit of a moving target, of course, but to kind of give you a quick encapsulation of what it means for the city of Richmond and the PDI as a whole, though. We looked at this model being built out over about 10 years, estimating 8 new businesses with a total capital investment of $930 million. And at full build out, a little over $100 million in full-time salaries. Now, Georgetown and Scott County have pledged all of their tax revenues to this interlocal agreement and the Regional Industrial Development Authority. So that's obviously occupational, property, insurance premium. The one thing that we can't really build into the model until you know who is actually going to be in the park is the net profits tax. But from your perspective, your $500,000 cash equity investment would yield about a 40% return annually in 10 years at full build out. So in other words, $200,000 per year for as long as the park is there is what your $500,000 cash investment would earn you going forward. And obviously, as they've alluded to, the hope is that this group in this partnership, by spreading risk, pooling assets, would continue to do more than one park in more than one county. So that obviously changes what your potential investment would be, but also what your potential return would be. So that's, I guess, again, the 30,000-foot quick view. Happy to answer questions and get as far in the weeds as you would like. But that is, I think, a quick review of how the model is put together.
Thanks, Mr. Palmer. All right, let's see now. Madam Clerk, have we brought this to the floor for discussion? If this, we have, okay, so we're in the discussion period. Now, these three have presented. What questions, comments do we have at this time now from the desk here?
So what would the estimated payback period for the city of Richmond, like investment, what would that be?
To recoup your investment? If it takes 8 to 10 years for full build-out to ramp up those returns, but obviously you'll get it back in 2 years once we get to that level.
Does that mean when businesses and factories are built?
Yes,
that
because that, I
return?
mean,
So
if
you're telling me that in 8 to 10 years, that this park would be full and that we would receive back $200,000 of our investment each year after 8 to 10 years?
Yes.
What happens if that doesn't happen? Where do we go with money? How do we get our return on our money after 8 to 10 years? What if it's 20 years, which is a figure that we heard before? How do
I mean, I don't think I have the crystal ball to tell you what how the economic development recruitment will go, but I can tell you that I think you have 3 major players in Central Kentucky who have partnered on a project. They're going to have considerable influence, not only in the state legislature, but also with our congressional delegation. I don't know that I can tell you, Commissioner Brewer, exactly when you might get that back. But it seems to me from a financial standpoint that it's, the potential return is significant, I think, for the $500,000.
And if I don't.
Yes,
Can I make
Lucas.
a comment to that? There is absolutely no guarantee that this park is successful, right? I mean, that there's no guarantee with any investment.
Thank you for saying that.
Right,
yes.
absolutely not. I think with any investment, you are making a educated decision based on the data that is available to you at that time, right? And so what I would say to that, Commissioner Brewer, I think more accurately stated is the projections are showing that it should roughly take, call it 10 years to get roughly 8 projects recruited. Now, those projects are going to take time to be built and ramp up in employees, right? So at full build out, it's really probably 20 plus years. And for a 500-acre park, that's not abnormal whatsoever, right? I think the important thing to note, though, is this particular park will be located in a part of the state that is highly sought after, right? And when you look at the average projects across the state of Kentucky right now, the cabinet would tell you the average request that they were seeing on projects that come through the door, some that land here and some that don't, the average request right now is exceeding 300 acres per project, right? So they're growing in size. The average capital investment is growing in size. Now, the average number of jobs is probably lessening some per project because of automation, right? But what you're also going to get is the average salary in this particular part of the state is higher than much higher than the average across the entire state. So your investment into this particular project is going to yield a return on those higher wages simply because of that area demands higher wages. And what I would say is from a rate of return perspective, I don't know many other ways to make an investment that if you put in $1, you automatically get $2. So
But you're not, when you invest in the $2 million and it's matched from each one, that's about $12 million.
Yes, sir.
And that's for the purchase of property?
The purchase of the property will cost about $9 million. So that $12 million immediately gives you a $3 million shortfall.
How much do you think it would cost to do the infrastructure for an industrial park?
Yeah, so for phase 1, what we've estimated is the sewer cost is roughly going to cost about $4.8 million. We've gone out jointly and have applied for funding through the CPF program at the congressional level through Congressman Barr's office for $6.2 million. That's been put into the budget in Washington, which should be approved theoretically next year. So that 4.8, 6.2, you have a little left over. And the natural gas to get to the site is projected to be $1.5 million. Water is already to the site that could serve a small to moderate user. Again, projections. If you land some massive water user tomorrow that's going to demand a much higher, yeah, that will cause more investment into water. But water, as it stands today, is at the site and can serve what's called a small to medium-sized user. Call it 250,000 gallons per day. The state of Kentucky considers that small. That's actually large.
One project, one factory, or
No,
one
not at all.
All of them.
No, not at all. No, that's the projection for phase one, right? So between natural gas and wastewater, you have 4.8 plus 1.5. The 6.2 million that's been applied to through Congressman Barr's office should cover that cost, right? Now, natural gas, we're budgeting that the authority is going to take on that cost, but if you land a user that is a large or decent-sized natural gas user, it's very common for the natural gas company to incur that cost or to at least incur some of it. But we're planning for the authority to pay for that. But it wouldn't be out of the question for Columbia Gas to pay for it with the right user.
Forgive me for the indebtedness that when I read through this, and when I've read through them all, the indebtedness and who is responsible. You do bank loans, you do taxing. Who's responsible for paying this back?
Within the model, we have the IDA itself cash flowing the indebtedness. As it's to spread that indebtedness out as the park would grow and fill up, before they'd have need for further indebtedness, they would have cash flow. So therefore, they would have an ability to service the debt.
Through the authority board?
Yes.
So who would the authority board, as you explained earlier, I think, who do they come to ask for this increase in getting money back to them or to pay for the debt on this?
So the authority board will work with you all. You appoint your members, and if they need additional debt that they can't get themselves, they can request an appropriation from the local governments, or they can make a full-blown capital call to ask all the parties to pitch in the money, which would go to that revenue split I was talking about earlier, and whether or not those shares are adjusted. But it can request appropriations from the local governments, and you all don't have to say yes. It is fully within your powers to go to your budget and say, we can't afford that. If you need a lot of money, make a capital call, follow the procedures in here to get those funds. But as Lucas was saying, hopefully we'll get all this money that we need to set up the park for phase one, that they should not be incurring additional debt that they can't secure with a credit line or by themselves through a bank traditionally.
And I'm sorry, again, forgive me. When you say hopefully, or to me, that sounds like speculation. I mean, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, it's all speculation, right?
Am I going to put the debt off on the taxpayers here? Hopefully I don't.
Yeah, no, it's all speculation, right? I think when the city of Berea went down to start the industrial park down there, it was a big piece of land, right? And between two companies, so we've projected over 1,400 jobs to be created on, it's really roughly 400 acres that are going to be focused on the developable piece of the land. We've projected over 1,400 jobs over the life of the project. And that's a lot, right? If you go down to Berea right here in Madison County, between two companies, Hitachi and Hyster-Yale, that's 2,000 employees between two companies that are under 100 acres of land. No different than Okanite here in Richmond that probably has, 700, 800 people that work there, AGC. So
well, you've been to our industrial park. You've toured it before, the new one. I mean, what we're doing, we got 1,000-acre site out there that we're working on to. How would this play into us in our industrial park if we join this and we've got a business that wants to come to our industrial park? Does this authority board have the opportunity to speak to them prior to?
I think it depends on who, if it depends on who's leading the company's decision-making process, right? I mean,
Well, no, I have to disagree with that, because you, as the authority board could come and say, I want to talk to them too.
I'm sure they
I
could,
want you
but
to come to Georgetown.
I'm sure I guess theoretically, anybody could make that ask, right? But I guess my argument to that would be the Begley site is 1,000 acres. This particular site is really 400 acres. That site is truly a mega site. This particular site is more likely going to be busted up into multiple users. I don't see those as competitive sites, in my opinion, being in the business. They're two totally different sites. But to your point, Commissioner Brewer, I would say, I guess theoretically, anybody can pick up the phone and call somebody, but whoever's leading that decision for the company is recommending where they look. And I see those two sites as being very different from each other.
Lucas and/or RJ, just a question. RJ, I think when you gave the projections, what was this is a layman asking you, okay? What was the basis for those projections? When you talked first, I think, about the 10 years and so on.
Sure.
On what basis were you giving those?
As Lucas alluded to, we're estimating 1,414 jobs at build-out with an average average wage of $38 an hour. So obviously, we're taking that to calculate the occupational license tax that is created. And then we're estimating the property tax based upon the estimated build-out of $930 million.
Now, where did that 1,400 jobs come from? What are you using to base that?
It was just, Mayor, it's a good question. It was just taking average projects across the state of Kentucky and even the region over the last 2 to 3 years on average projects announced in the state, capital investment, the jobs that they created. Now, the wage specifically is very specific to that area, right? If you're on the economic overview of the wages for advanced manufacturing in that particular area, that's where we got the wages. But in terms of the jobs and also working with, the engineering company that was hired to help say, hey, here's theoretically how the site could be built out and how many companies could locate here. Really, the master conceptual plan shows far more than 8 companies, right? Again, relatively conservative, tried to be not overly optimistic, but cautiously optimistic. But we really just use data, right, as it relates to projects I've announced across Kentucky and the region.
Okay. Lucas, do you feel comfortable, and I've said being totally transparent now, and I appreciate that the public is now getting to hear this stage of all of our conversations, which is one of the things that, of course, the public has objected because of just not knowing some things. And as someone said to me today, just not educated on some of the details that would help them to form an intelligent decision. But some of the, and it's not rumor, but some of the information that has come, for example, from Scott County, there's another park there.
Yes.
That's been there for X number of years, but is not yet full. Is that true? You're smiling, Lieutenant.
Yeah. So listen, is that park completely full? No. I think they have roughly 70 acres or so left because they literally just expanded it through the KPDI program. What I would say to that is when you look at the average request of projects, roughly at 300 acres, they're pretty full. The other thing to know is the zoning that they use in Scott County for Lanes Run Business Park, which is what you're referring to, would be the same zoning at this particular site. It's called BP1 zoning. And that particular zoning does require a little extra green space, right? Which, again, to the average eye, when you drive across, you see a lot of grass, you just assume it's not full. Some of that is a component of the zoning, right? But again, to be on record, they do have more land there. It's not a significant amount, though, no.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
If I could, last night at the Georgetown work
Uh-huh.
session, their economic development director stated that he anticipated they would be out of land at Lanes Run in 3 to 5 years. So this project actually pairs up nicely with, as for the build-out of when they anticipate finishing up Lanes Run.
Okay. Thanks, RJ. Further discussion? Questions, comments?
I don't have a
Commissioner Cole.
question. When they get finished, I'll make a
Okay,
comment.
Commissioner Cole, you have a...
Yes, I just had a couple of questions. And I want to see if I can restate this, and you all tell me if I'm correct or not in terms of the debt. Because one of the concerns, which is a fair concern, is in terms of once we pay the $500,000 and we're in for X amount of money at that share, there's been a lot of discussion and maybe fear in terms of, will we just have to keep paying? So let me see if I can restate what I heard you all say, and please correct me if I'm wrong. But if there is a need for additional debt, and we don't know if there is or not at this point in time, we do not know. But if there is a call for additional funding, that there's debt, a budget shortfall, then that request would come to all the partners, including the City of Richmond. And we would have two choices. A, we could say, yes, we want to stay in at the same percentage and we want to pay our portion of that. Or B, we could say, the City of Richmond cannot afford that, the City of Richmond doesn't wish to do that. For whatever reason, this commission doesn't want to invest further. Would we have that option? Am I correct in that we could do that?
Yes, you can always tell them that you cannot contribute further. And even then, once that goes back to the authority of the local governments, I've said we can contribute further. It goes back to the local governments to approve that. So you can say no, and then it goes to the authority, and then it goes back to the local governments for final approval.
So if you say no, and your percentage of 8.4%, I think, and we say no, we're not giving any more, that percentage goes down that you would receive.
Correct.
And so you're out the 500,000, and then you're less the 8.4%. How do you determine how much? Is it by how much more indebtedness there is?
So it'll be based on the future contributions. And again, with that, you all can say you disagree with the math. So it's not a set in stone reduction. The authority does their internal math to figure out what the new share should be. They send that to the local governments. You review that, and you can disagree with their math and say, we're calling all the parties, and all the local governments will have to meet to figure out what the actual percentage should be. So you can say no, and you can say no again, and then it goes to all the local governments for final approval of what that should be. So it's not you say no and you're stuck.
And just bear with me, I'm just going to make a comment here. What I'm still trying to deal with, you probably see the wheels turning, but if that adjustment is made because of the lack of participating further at additional, but remaining as a partner, the adjustment is made. I'm trying to process what that means since you entered at a certain percentage. I can't get over the hurdle here. You entered at a certain percentage, and even if it's adjusted, how do you calculate your actual ownership now? I mean, you entered at the beginning of the project. Don't even answer me. I'll have to sit with my pencil and keep playing with it. Okay, it'll come to me eventually, but you understand where I am, RJ? I'm just trying to get over that hurdle.
Yeah, well, I think the quick answer is the amount of equity that the other partners put in would then dilute your original investment. You're exactly right. And then that would create a new percentage for you. But you would have an opportunity to invest at the same level that everyone else is.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that means we're out $500,000 in the beginning. If we don't participate anymore, we're through. That means that you got the $500,000 investment from the City of Richmond to this project, and if we decide that we don't have any more money to put in it, then you keep the $500,000 and we're out of the project.
I don't know if you'd be out, your percentage would be diluted. You might go from 8% to 6%.
So if we tell you that we cannot put any more money into this project, how many times do you have to go to dilute it down to zero if we tell you we don't have any more money?
So the only way Richmond is no longer a part of this and has 0% is if it withdraws. And if it withdraws, there's a statutory mechanism which basically forces the other parties to say, are we going to continue this without Richmond? Are we going to find a new partner? Or are we going to reallocate our shares? So the only way Richmond goes down to 0 is if it chooses to leave. So you all cannot be forced out. You all have to willingly leave for that to go all the way to 0.
And does that mean if Richmond did choose to leave, does that mean don't get bought out by the other parties? I mean,
so
$500,000 or whatever the investment is, conceivably, could the city or anybody who's a part be bought out by the others? Or is that not maybe I've not read?
So no other party can buy out another party.
Uh-huh.
So the statutes don't permit that. You all join in as partners, and you can't buy out your partner like you could in a traditional company.
All righty. What further discussion?
I just had a couple other
Yes,
things.
go ahead,
And I apologize because I think we touched on this already, but I just want to make sure.
Tammy, excuse me, and let me say this, I appreciate it, and let me just say to those who are here in the audience, because this is the first time we've gotten to this level of detail, and because we are looking at the final draft, what is being done here tonight actually is crucial. I know it may wear on the patience of some, but it's crucial. So please be patient, and thank you for your patience thus far. Tammy, go ahead.
I want to just make a comment first, and then I do have a question. But I think as we look at all these details, it's a little bit easy to kind of get, caught up in some of the details, and we are doing some projections. It's like an investment. If we were to go out and invest in stock in a company or a CD or whatever investment we were to make as a private citizen or as an individual, there's always a level of risk there. But I want to make sure that one thing doesn't get lost in the shuffle, and that's the fact that the city of Richmond was invited to the dance. I still am honored that Lexington, let's admit, it's bigger than Richmond. I'm still honored that the city, that Lexington, Fayette, Urban County government, Scott County, Georgetown, Madison County, Berea, that group of governments wanted us to be a partner. So I just wanted to say that. I don't want that to get lost in the shuffle. I think that's a compliment to us and a compliment to our mayor and our staff and so forth. So on the board, the Regional Development Authority, the city of Richmond, will the mayor be able to appoint a person that represents the city of Richmond?
So it'll be two members between Berea, Richmond, and Madison County. So the mayor won't be able to just pick one person. He'll have to work with Mayor Fraley and the judge executive on who the appointee should be.
Correct. And the other thing, and I just want to clarify this, and again, I know we touched on it a little bit, but the city of Richmond, has invested heavily in our own industrial park, and we are extremely proud, of our own industrial park. David Stipes is here, and he and his staff work very hard and dedicated to making sure that we're good stewards of that industrial park and so forth. But I just want to make sure, because there's been some confusion in terms of if we join the regional initiative, does that in any way preclude us from still receiving matching funds from the state of Kentucky under the KPDI grant application process?
You mean City of Richmond?
City of Richmond.
Yes, okay.
Did I say that wrong? I'm sorry. City of Richmond.
No, it doesn't.
So we could still do
No.
our own grant application, just make next year if we wanted to do that.
Yep.
We could still request KPDI funds.
You can.
And at the same time be part of a regional effort.
That's correct.
Okay.
I will state though that I think the state is trying to be intentional of those who have received funding in the past, right? That's taken into consideration for more funding in the future, but it does not preclude you from applying and asking for more money, no.
And that has not yet been approved from the state, is that correct?
Our project?
Yes, we're
No,
waiting.
That's correct. Final approval is still waiting to be had, which will need to come in December from the timeline perspective.
Is there any other agencies besides us that has to vote on this?
Yes. Scott County Fiscal Court has already voted and approved it. City of Berea has voted and approved it. Madison County Fiscal Court has voted and approved it. The city of Lexington will vote on Thursday, and Georgetown will go last next Monday.
So what happens if one of those vote no, they don't want to do it, so they're out?
So the obvious problem would be if Georgetown or Scott County voted no, then the project just wouldn't happen. And you can't do a project without them, right?
And help me figure this out in my county brain here, Madison County. If we solicit a business to our industrial park, and this authority board decides they want to talk to them, we can't stop that?
I guess I'm not sure how to answer that, Commissioner Brewer, because I think that's relatively similar if they were to visit you all in Berea or if they were to visit Lexington and Richmond. They visit multiple sites frequently. I guess my response would be you're in the mix on both of them if they visit both of you.
Well, I mean, we are talking to manufacturing companies.
Sure.
That doesn't give you the right, I'm sorry, not you, the
Understood,
authority board to
understood,
come
yeah.
in and say, hey, no, come to
Sure.
Georgetown, because this is what we're going to do here.
Sure. I mean, I think it's more up to the company to decide where they want to go, right? If they wanted to visit both sites, I'm sure that they could.
But what I'm asking is, why would it be the authority board's place to ask them to come visit an industrial park in Georgetown, Scott County?
I don't know if it would be the board's place to ask that.
That could create certainly, I think, a competitive atmosphere that I don't think we want.
Okay.
To get into that kind of discussion and maybe even create a hostile situation. But I don't see that's what you're saying. I'm saying if that were the case, then, that would be certainly further discussion.
Not for these fellas, no. My statement's for the people.
Now, you want to say, while we're in the discussion period, you go ahead
Well, I mean,
and you can close it out.
We're finished with these gentlemen.
Any further questions for, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you all
thank you,
very
thank
much.
you. Yeah. All right, Commissioner Newby.
Well, first of all, I think this is a great idea. And everyone that knows me, I usually explain how I'm going to vote when it involves a matter that has any kind of controversy whatsoever. And I've taken a lot of pride over the years in voting, how my constituents feel and what they want. I guess on this matter, some constituents have called me and expressed their concerns. Unfortunately, I feel they were misinformed. And regretfully, I wasn't able to convince them otherwise. That's just all I want to say. But it's got nothing to do with my feelings on this project. So I just want to state that out there, that I got some.
Thank you,
As I'm
Commissioner.
sure we all did.
Any further? I want all to be able, as I say, this is a crucial opportunity for a level of detail that we've not talked about at this point because frankly, I couldn't. But now that we have the actual final draft of the interlocal in front of us, then we can speak more intelligently to what's in front of us. All hearts and minds clear? Order 24-154. Order the Board of Commissioners of the City of Richmond, Kentucky electing to enter into an interlocal cooperation agreement for participation in a joint regional economic development. If all hearts and minds are clear, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Newby,
Unfortunately, Mayor, no.
Commissioner Brewer,
No.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Goble,
Yes.
Mayor Blythe.
No.
Motion was
We declare
denied.
that the motion is defeated. Order 24-155. An order of the City of Richmond, Kentucky approving fiscal year 24-25 charitable grant application by Gallery on Main.
Whereas the city receives various applicants for charitable grants, and whereas the applicable Kentucky law permits that the city at its discretion of the Board of Commissioners to make charitable grants to organizations provided, however, that such grant monies be used for the furtherance of public purpose, and that the grant recipient manage grant monies in such a way to ensure that the fact expended in the public purpose. And whereas the city typically includes it in the annual budget, a specified amount appropriated for the grants through the fiscal year receives applications from various organizations for such grants. Now therefore be it ordered that the charitable donation application for the fiscal year 24-25 by Gallery on Main organization has been reviewed by the City Manager Office and now presented to the Board of Commissioners for final approval of $1,000 of funding request. The attached application and funding is hereby approved. This order shall be in full force and effect upon reading and adoption by the Richmond City Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's Order 24-155. May we have a motion, please, bring the floor for discussion and approval.
I move.
Commissioner Newby,
Second.
Commissioner Brewer, is there any discussion?
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, sir, please.
I just want to inform the board that we have given to this charity in the years past, so it's a kind of a routine approval. The other thing I wanted to make the board aware of, we started out with $75,000 in charitable contributions. With the approval of this one, it leaves about $22,000 in the account.
How much?
$22,000.
I'm sorry, what did you say about the 22,000?
That's what's left in the charitable contributions account, $22,000
Yes.
after this, if it's approved.
All right, thank you, thank you. In essence, funding this event that's coming up. I'm looking best of show.
And we have given to this in the past.
Yes. Any further discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Brewer?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Goble?
Yes.
Commissioner Newby?
Yes.
Mayor Blythe?
Yes, thank you. Order 24-156. Order of the City of Richmond awarding a contract with Bluegrass Pool Management. Mr. Attorney, please.
Whereas the City of Richmond has advertised a request for proposals and accepted bids for the lifeguard management and pool operations at Paradise Cove Aquatic Center, and whereas the bid was published on September 12, 2024, with 3 bids being submitted, this company has been determined to be the best proposal for the city. Now, therefore, be it ordered by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners that 1, the lifeguard management program bid is awarded to Bluegrass Pool Management of Lexington, Kentucky. The scope of the services are outlined in the attached proposal. 2, the mayor is authorized to sign contract on behalf of the city. This order shall take effect upon reading and passage by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. That's Order 24-156. May you have a motion, please, to bring to the floor for discussion and approval.
So moved.
Commissioner Brewer,
Second.
Commissioner Newby, is there any discussion?
Is this the same group we just had?
It is.
Yeah.
We had 3 bids, this company, and I think the other 2 were out of Georgia.
I will say this, I think they did do a great job
They
this
did.
year. I went by and just talked with the management and their leaders, their supervisors or whatever, and
We had one of the better operational seasons we've had in a long time.
any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Goble?
Yes.
Commissioner Newby?
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer?
Yes.
Mayor Blythe?
Yes, thank you. Order 24-157, an order of the City of Richmond amending several orders regarding the Little League project at Revel Field. Mr. City Manager, please.
Whereas the City of Richmond has adopted multiple orders which accepted bids for the remodel of Revel Little League Baseball Field located at Lake Reba Park, and whereas 3 orders need to be amended with corrections, now therefore be ordered by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners. Number 1, rescind Order 24-131, Lake Reba Park, Little League Netted Backstop System project bid for Revel Field is awarded to Sports Field Specialties of New York for a total of $26,356.50. Upon further review by the consulting firm, a new recommendation was made to award the contract to Sports Field Specialties as it met additional specifications. Number 2, amend Order 24-133, the Lake Reba Park Little League Artificial Turf Project bid for Revel Field is awarded to Vesio Sports Fields of Lexington, Kentucky for the amount of $437,127. Upon further review by the consulting firm, an updated final price was recommended which met additional specifications. Number 3, amend Order 24-149, the Lake Reba Park Little League Fencing Project. Funding for the project will be allocated from the Parks Capital Projects. These orders are hereby amended, and the submitted bids are attached to the order to reflect these corrections. This order shall take effect upon reading and passage by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. That's Order 24-157. May we have a motion, please, bring the floor for discussion and approval?
Don't move.
Commissioner Brewer,
Second.
Commissioner Newby, is there any discussion? Mr. City Manager, why these specific changes in these three?
The first one, which is the netted backstop, the consultant, who is MP Kelly, Mike Kelly, they came back with additional needed specifications, so we decided to go with Sportsfield Specialties, who could provide those. And it was actually a little bit less, too, if I'm not mistaken. The artificial turf company, we just are amending that order with the same company. There was about a $2,000 difference that needed, there was kind of a change order that needed to be done with the turf field, so there was a $2,000 addition there. And then the fencing piece of this, I had allocated to the ARPA budget, but it actually needed to go to the Parks capital budget. That was my mistake.
Appreciate it. Any further discussion?
Sorry for the confusion. This Little League field has turned into 6 different contractors, and it's like
Yes.
herding cats right now. But with Lisa's help and Fraser's help and Tim's help and Mike Kelly's help, we're getting her done.
Got
And
it.
Phyllis is happy.
Yeah, Phyllis, she's always a good shot in the arm.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Goble,
Yes.
Commissioner Newby,
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole.
Yes.
Mayor Blythe.
Yes, thank you. Order 24-158, an order of the City of Richmond appointing a new member to the Parks Board.
Whereas there is a vacancy on the Richmond Parks and Recreation Board due to a member resignation, and whereas there is a member that has displayed an interest in serving and has made a commitment to attend all meetings, now therefore be it ordered by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners that the following be appointed to the Richmond Parks Board for the remaining term expiring February 28th, 2026. Kaylin Scott. This order shall become effective immediately upon adoption by the Richmond City Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's Order 24-158. May we have a motion, please, to bring to the floor for discussion and approval?
I move. Second.
All right, Commissioner Brewer, Commissioner Newby. Any discussion? Let me say this right off the top, and I'm not forgotten the request, just forgot to make it available to you, but the chair of the Parks Board, Dr. John, I call him, McChesney, and the Director of Parks and Recreation Administration, Aaron Moore, highly recommended Ms. Scott. Now, I have the information that you'd want, and degree from Eastern, the Parks and Recreation, worked in that department even, and some other things. I'll get that in your hands. I apologize for not having it as a part of this document, but I have that information, and I will pass it on to you. Sorry about that.
She comes highly recommended. She has a degree in Parks and Recreation from EKU. She has 2 children that are very involved in the park system, so that'll be good to get feedback from her. So
That was one of the reasons, thank you,
Yeah,
Rob, for that. That
that's
was
right.
one of the reasons for the high recommendation from the board chair and from Aaron, that Kaylin actually has children who participate in our parks, and they felt that would be a good perspective to have. And what the third grader said, it's how it looks from where you sit and where the children and young people sit. Their perspective might not be the same. He is a resident of Richmond. I checked that out very, very carefully, but a resident of the city of Richmond. Any further discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Newby,
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Goble.
Yes.
Mayor Blythe.
Yes, thank you. Order 24-159, an order of the Board of Commissioners approving a change order for the Tates Creek Turn Lane project.
Whereas the city is finalizing construction plans for the Tates Creek Turn Lane project, which will accommodate the new park. And whereas the city has contracted with Allen Company, which has recommended a change order in order to move forward to include extensions of culvert pipes on the south side of Tates Creek Road for a future multi-purpose trail. And whereas the city commission has reviewed the agreement and made a recommendation to move forward. Now therefore be it ordered by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners to authorize the change order for the Tates Creek Turn Lane project between the City of Richmond and Allen Company to add culverts for a multi-purpose trail, $80,000, $419.93. Funding for the project will be allocated from the Richmond Regional Sports Complex Fund. The mayor is authorized to execute same on behalf of the city. This order shall become effective immediately upon reading and adoption by the Richmond City Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's Order 24-159. May we have a motion, please, to bring to the floor for discussion and approval?
Move.
Commissioner Newby,
Second.
Commissioner Brewer. Is there any discussion?
If I may, Mayor?
Please, sir.
This late design change came in the park project because of the addition of the multi-use path coming down Tates Creek Road and going up Goggins Lane. So when we bid out the lane project for Tates Creek, we did not include the multi-purpose path running along Tates Creek. This is a culvert extension that allows us to do that, is what it is.
Thank you for that explanation. Any further discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Brewer?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Goble?
Yes.
Commissioner Newby?
Yes.
Mayor Blythe?
Yes, thank you. Order 24-160, order of the City of Richmond hiring an employee in the Section 8 Housing Department. Madam Clerk, please.
Whereas the Section 8 Housing Department is in need of a full-time family self-sufficiency coordinator, and whereas the position was advertised and interviews conducted, and whereas the city manager has recommended a hire for the position. Now therefore be it ordered by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners that the following individual is hired contingent upon their successful completion of the city's pre-employment requirements as the Family Self-Sufficiency Coordinator 1, which is an at-will employee for the Section 8 Department, effective October 28, 2024, pay grade 4, Lisa Broadus. This order shall be in full force and effect upon reading and adoption by the Richmond City Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's Order 24-160. May we have a motion, please, bring to the floor for discussion and approval?
I move.
Commissioner Newby,
Second.
Commissioner Brewer, is there any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Commissioner Goble?
Yes.
Commissioner Newby?
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer?
Yes.
Mayor Blythe?
Yes, thank you. Order 24-161, an order of the City of Richmond, Kentucky authorizing the demolition of a substandard structure and the cleanup at 323 Marbley Avenue and the placing of a lien against said property for the city's cost. Madam Clerk, please.
Whereas the city has received numerous calls regarding the condition of the property located at 323 Moberly Avenue, and whereas the Codes Enforcement Department has made repeated attempts to get the property owner to bring the property into compliance, and whereas Ordinance 83-27, the nuisance ordinance, provides that the city or a private contractor to remedy this situation and place a lien against the said property, and whereas the Codes Enforcement Board has adopted findings of facts and order in favor of the demolition, which the city has advertised for bids and received 4 bids, which after review, 1 bid which met the most cost-effective. Now therefore be it ordered by the City of Richmond Board of Commissioners that is hereby authorized to demolition the substandard structure located at 323 Moberly Avenue and cleanup of the lot by Epic Demolition of Richmond, Kentucky. I do have a corrected amount for $7,370. The funds for the project is budgeted from the fiscal year 25, which comes out of the non-departmental capital outlay improvements other than buildings, abandoned properties. There shall be a lien placed against the property with the Madison County Court Clerk in the amount of the city's amount for the demolition and cleanup. This order shall become effective immediately upon passage by the Richmond City Board of Commissioners.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's Order 24-161. May we have a motion, please? Bring the floor for discussion and approval.
I move.
Commissioner Newby,
Second.
Commissioner Brewer. Is there any discussion? Just one thing. Now, again, you're replacing the 17,000 plus
Yeah, that was-
with
that-
7,000
Yes,
plus. All
yep.
right, thank you.
I'm sorry.
I
No,
just had
no,
a, oh, I'm sorry, Mayor. I just had a question. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand the process. So the city of Richmond pays $7,000 for the demolition. And then how do we recoup our money?
We put a lien on the property, and then when the property is sold, either on the open market or at a master commissioner sale, we're in line first to get what we recoup from the lien amount.
So do we typically get that back?
It depends on what the lot gets sold for.
So there's no guarantee, but
No,
we.
there's not.
Plus, you're getting rid of, and I don't want to say eyesore, it's terrible.
Eyesore.
It was a horribly
But it was
abandoned
in
property.
horrible condition.
Yeah.
It should have been done.
And again, the idea is to allow Habitat for Humanity to use these. If we end up owning them, then we give them to Habitat for Humanity to build homes.
Right.
Further discussion? Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Goble?
Yes.
Commissioner Newby?
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
Mayor Blythe?
Yes, thank you. Anyone here for public comments tonight? All right. Yes, sir, please. Come to the podium and state your name, please, for the clerk's record.
It's good to see you all. My name is Paul Mazurek. I'm the chairman of the Madison County Veterans Committee. Just wanted to kind of let you know a few of the things we've got going on. We're located at 1215 West Main Street in the old Senior Citizens Building. We've got a service officer, and what her job is, her name's Teresa Wilson, is she helps veterans either get started with the VA, veterans who aren't using the VA healthcare system. She gets them signed up with the VA, and then if they have to file a service connection claim, which is, for an injury sustained during their service, she helps them with that as well. Any veterans here are welcome to go and see her. We have, the units we have in our building, we have the VFW, the Disabled American Veterans here, Chapter 55, the Vietnam Veterans of America, and let's see. Then, of course, we have two American Legions that are part of our organization, but they have their own buildings. And the Marine Corps League. They're going to kill me because I forgot that one. We all work together. We have a Madison County Veterans Honor Guard, and one of the things that they do is they go around and they do the rifle salute and play taps for military funerals, and then occasionally they're called upon, when the military can't be there, to present the flag to the next of kin, and I have done that, and it's very difficult. That's probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. We have two veterans who have been inducted into the Kentucky Veterans Hall of Fame, Michael Boyd and Emerson McAfee, and we're looking to have two more veterans inducted in the coming year. So we're pretty active. We had some commissioners from Lexington come down because they've heard about what we're doing, that we've got all the units in this one building and we're working together, and that was something that they wanted to do. So they came and talked to us and looked around, and they were very impressed. And so I just kind of wanted to let you guys know what we're doing there, and we've been there almost 5 years. Our lease with the city will be up soon, and so we'd really love to renew that so that we can continue doing the good work that we do. Every Friday, we have a veterans, free breakfast for veterans. Anybody can come. You don't have to be a veteran. We don't card you at the door. You know, if, you know, and on
What
occasion,
time is
we
that,
have
Paul?
food. I'm sorry?
What time is that?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
Yeah, and I would recommend being there close to 8 because the food doesn't last long. I mean, usually about 8:30 or 9, it's gone. But what that does is it allows the veterans to get together, and it's kind of like when you were in the service and you could socialize, you know, when you weren't doing details, you know, so they don't have to do details, they don't have to do dishes, no KP. I do that. And so, but it's very therapeutic. And so just want to let you folks know a little bit about what we're doing, and appreciate you.
Paul, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for what you all are doing
Oh, thank
there
you.
at that center. You said 5 years. I guess it
Yeah.
has been that long. But I remember Commissioner Brewer and then Commissioner McDaniel fought me to make sure that building
Yeah.
went to you all.
Yeah.
There were
we
a couple
really
of other
appreciate
things,
it.
I believe, that had asked
Yeah.
possibly for that building. Of course, we were able to move or to make available that new active living center now out there on Amberley.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were able to make that available to the senior program. It's not our program. It's
Right.
Kentucky River Foothills program, but we were able to make that facility available to them, leaving this facility then, and the veterans have done a tremendous job
Oh,
with
yeah.
the building, and certainly making use of every bit of it. So thank you
Oh.
for what you're doing there, and thank you for your service. But
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes,
We'd
indeed.
like to continue to be good stewards of the property and good neighbors, and help as many veterans and folks as we can. We're kind of hoping to have a Thanksgiving dinner for, you know, veterans who don't really have a place to go, and students. We opened that up to a few students last year from Eastern or wherever. And then at Christmas, we make boxes that we take around to different veterans that are kind of shut in and stuff, so.
we don't want a bunch of folks just come to eat up your food, but in our meetings in November, if you
Yes, sir.
would, please just notify us of the time when you're serving the dinner for veterans.
Oh, sure.
We'd like to
Yeah.
announce it in our meetings to
Okay.
make sure that as
Yeah,
many
that'd be
veterans
great.
as possible would know.
Oh, yeah, we love to have you. So,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comments? All right. Okay, there. Commissioner Goble?
I'm good.
Commissioner Newby?
I don't have anything.
Commissioner Cole?
No, I'm good, thank you.
And Commissioner Brewer?
I'm gonna do mine from here, 0.
All right. Let's see here, a couple of things. Today, two things, well, three things in particular. One, working with the Madison County School Board over the past several months. They're trying to do some things to make a speaker pool available for students. And of course, you know, at the legislative level even, order of the day is conversation about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there's conversations in our school district, and the school board has invited me out to share from the city's perspective on some things. So we met this morning, have met the past several months. Also, I can't remember the name of the street, but several years ago, and I think it was 1999, I think is what they said, then President Jimmy Carter came to Richmond, and he participated in the building of a home. I can't think of the name of the street. Is it Douglas? I believe, but Douglas Court? Thank you. And he participated in the building of a Habitat home. There is a sign that was there on the corner of the street, just a door down from that home, and seems that someone, let me say it like this. Somehow the sign came up missing. And it said Hammer Hills was the name of what was on the sign, and then it says Jimmy Carter was here and so on. That sign mysteriously showed up a few days ago, and someone just laid it back, and I'm thinking maybe it blew off in the storm or something, so we won't accuse anybody, but the sign showed up, and it was reassigned today. Thank you, Josh. Who was it? James from Public Works reattached the sign, and we actually had a ceremony, as one of the residents said, in fact, the resident of that house, that home, a reopening of Hammering Hill. So the Habitat for Humanity folks were there and so on, and it was nice, and Kelly was there to document for the city. So that was, it was nice. It was nice. And also at St. Andrew's Place, Phil Seifert, our person at the Battle of Richmond Center, Visitor Center, conducted a program at St. Andrew's Place to acknowledge a tree. And they call it a witness tree, a tree that is well over 200 years old, which means it was probably around during the Battle of Richmond. And so it and some other trees throughout the county are going to be acknowledged, recognized as their witness to the Battle of Richmond. But huge thing. It's a pretty thing, too. It's still maintained. It's still alive, and it's maintained its beauty. It's some kind of oak. But that's it. That's the report for the day. I believe that's everything. One other thing, and I don't ever feel the need to explain a vote, but I do want to say every day the proposed regional project has unfolded. Every day it's unfolded with something new, something new, something new. And I've always told you that I would make a decision or give a vote based on the information that I have at that time. Some of the things that have come, and some of them are public, I guess, but have led me to believe that it was not appropriate for me at this time to commit the city to what we were told tonight, which is a 10 to 20 year commitment without perhaps seeing whatever we may need to see. That's enough for that. I don't want to beat a dead horse. All hearts and minds clear? Yes. All right, may we have a motion, please? We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Commissioner Newby?
Second.
Commissioner Brewer. Madam Clerk, please.
Commissioner Newby,
Yes.
Commissioner Brewer,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole, Commissioner Goble,
Yeah.
Mayor Blythe.
Yes, thank you.